In 1929, workers and scholars were cataloging old manuscripts inside Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. Among the forgotten documents, they found an unusual piece of parchment. When scholars examined it, they realized it had been drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman sailor and cartographer Piri Reis. Only about one-third of the original map survives. But what remains is extraordinary. It shows the Atlantic Ocean, Western Africa, parts of Europe, and the eastern coast of South America. For a map more than 500 years old, some sections are surprisingly recognizable. The shape of parts of the African and South American coastlines looks remarkably close to what we know today. And that has fascinated people for decades. Because remember, this was the age of Christopher Columbus. European explorers were only beginning to chart the Americas. Navigation was difficult. Longitude could not yet be measured accurately at sea. Ships relied on stars, compasses, and coastal observations. So when people look at the Piri Reis map, some ask, how could sailors using wooden ships produce something that looks this accurate? To some viewers, parts of it almost look as if they were drawn from high above the earth. As if someone had seen the coastline from the air, then transferred that shape onto a map. Piri Reis himself gave us an important clue. He said he created his map by combining information from around 20 older charts, including Portuguese sources and a map connected with Christopher Columbus. So perhaps the real mystery is not Piri Reis himself. It is the maps he copied. Where did those older maps come from? Then there is the strange southern coastline. Some later researchers suggested it could represent Antarctica. If that were true, it would be even harder to explain. The sea between South America and Antarctica, the Drake Passage, is one of the roughest stretches of ocean on Earth. Violent winds, enormous waves, and freezing conditions make it dangerous even for modern ships. So the idea that ancient sailors crossed those waters, mapped the coastline accurately, and returned safely seems incredibly difficult. That has led to more unusual possibilities. Maybe Piri Reis copied information from a much older civilization with advanced navigation. Perhaps they had technology far beyond ordinary ancient ships. Or perhaps they could observe the Earth from above. Mainstream historians disagree with that interpretation. They argue that the map is a combination of early charts, with some coastlines distorted, and that the supposed Antarctic section is probably an incorrectly drawn continuation of South America. So the map is not perfectly accurate, but considering its age, some parts remain remarkably impressive. And that leaves one fascinating question. If Piri Reis was simply copying older maps, who created the originals? Were they exceptional ancient sailors? Or did someone, long before the modern age of exploration, possess a way of seeing the world that history has forgotten?